Hello, everyone. Shall we begin now? Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We are Group 3. Today, our group will be giving a presentation for unit number 11. The topic is composing an invitation letter. But before I start, I would like to introduce my group members. We have Ziyi, Longten, Gao Ming, and I, Yuan Xiang. So let's preview the contents for today. First, I will talk about the vocabulary for scenario 2, and then Ziyi and I will be having a conversation dialogue for scenario 2, and I will follow by the preposition exercise. Next, Ziyi will talk about the listening practice and vocabulary for listening practice. After that, Gao Ming will in charge for activity 2, and then Longten will talk about the high and low context culture. Next, Gao Ming again will continue the conclusion, the reference, the inside story, the job assignment, and then we will have a break time. After the break time, we continue with the comments by each group, followed by we will be choosing the best commentators, and then finally we will be giving our feedback. So without further ado, let's begin with the first part, the vocabulary for scenario 2. The first word we would like to preview is honorarium. And can everyone repeat the word after me? Honorarium.
Honorarium.
Yes, thank you. It is a usually small amount of money paid to someone for a service for which no official charge is made. Example of this sentence is, this year we provide an honorarium in the amount of 20,000 NT dollars to our keynote speakers. And can everyone repeat the sentence?
This year, we provide
an honorarium in the amount of $20,000 to our keynote speakers.
Yes, thank you. The second word is rigid. And can everyone repeat after me? Rigid.
Yuan Xiang, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yuan Xiang,
Yes.
just pick up someone to repeat after you. You're online. You cannot ask everyone to repeat.
Okay.
Only a lot of...
So the second word is rigid. Can I have Tu Chen to repeat the word after me? Rigid. Tu Yuchen.
rigid.
Yes. The meaning of this word is stiff or fixed or not able to be changed. And Yuchen, can you repeat the sentence after me? Do you think the wording of this letter is a bit too rigid?
Do you think the wording of this letter is a bit too rigid?
Yes, thank you. The third word is meticulous. And can I have Meng Xuan to repeat the word after me? Meticulous.
Meticulous.
Yes, thank you. The meaning of it is very careful and with great attention to every detail. The example of this word is, Li is famous for being extremely meticulous. And Meng Xuan, can you repeat the sentence, please?
Li is famous for being extremely meticulous.
Yes, thank you. And the next word is reassurance. And can I have TSailing to repeat the word after me? Reassurance.
Reassurance.
Yes, thank you. The meaning of it is the words of advice and comfort intended to make someone feel less worried. And the example of this sentence is, thanks for your feedback and reassurance. And Jialing, can you repeat the sentence?
Thanks for your feedback and reassurance.
Thank you. So after the vocabulary exercise, now we will have a conversation dialogue with Ziyi and I about composing an invitation letter. And let's welcome Ziyi. Hey, Ziyi, come and see the invitation letter I've just revised.
Okay, let me have a look.
What do you think?
It looks good to me. You seem to have included all of the information related to the 2014 GRI convention.
I also mentioned the honorarium. This year, we provide an honorarium in the amount of 20,000 NT dollars to our keynote speakers.
That's not too bad. Last year, we could only afford to pay less than 10,000 NT dollars.
I know we had a pretty tight budget last year.
I remember we even struggled with the reimbursement.
Yeah, it was almost mission impossible. I still can't believe we accomplished it.
Neither can I.
Just one more thing. I'm not sure about the wording of the letter. Do you think it's a bit too rigid?
Well, it's a bit stiff and formal, but I think it is supposed to be like that. I think it's pretty normal. Don't let it worry you too much.
Are you positively sure?
Well, maybe just a couple of points, then I think the mail is ready. Maybe you'd like to mention transportation arrangements and state clearly what you expect him to talk about.
Right. I will take your comments on board and add those points to the letter. Maybe I should ask Lee to proofread the letter for me?
Why not? Lee is famous for being extremely meticulous. He's the right person to go to.
Right. Thanks for your feedback and reassurance.
No problem.
So that's the end of the conversation dialogue, and thank you, Ziyi. Now let's continue with the preposition exercise. There are 4 questions in this exercise. Let's preview the first question. I remember we even struggle blank the reimbursement. And can I have Hong Ping to answer this question for me?
With.
Yes, the answer is with. And let's repeat the sentence after me. I remember we even struggle with the reimbursement. And Hong Ping, can you repeat?
I remember we even struggled with the reimbursement.
Yes, thank you. Now, question number 2. Well, maybe just a couple blank points. Then I will think the mail is ready. And can I have Jia Yong to answer this question for me?
Is off.
Yes, correct. The answer is off. And Jia Yong, can you repeat the sentence after me? Well, maybe just a couple of points. Then I think the mail is ready.
Well, maybe just a couple of points, then I think the mail is ready.
Yes, thank you. Now let's see question number 3. I will take your comments blank, board and add those points blank the letter. And can I have Zi Yuqing to answer the question for me, please?
On and two.
Yes, correct. It's on and to. And can you repeat the sentence after me? I will take your comments on board and add those points to the letter.
I'll take your comments on board and add those points to the letter.
Yes, thank you, Yiqing. And the last question is, Lee is famous blank being extremely meticulous. And can I have Jia Chen to answer this question for me?
The answer is 4.
Yes, correct. The answer is 4. And can you repeat the sentence after me? Lee is famous for being extremely meticulous.
Lee is famous for being extremely meticulous.
Fabulous. And that's all for the preposition exercise for today. And I have completed all my section. And now I would like to give the floor to Ziyi to continue the next part. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Yuanxiang, for giving me the floor. I'm Zi from Group 3. Now we're going to have a practice of listening part. And let's preview the 3 questions on page 77. Question number 1. What is the purpose of a press release? And then, according to the dialogue, what are the 5 W's in a press release? And the last question is, what kind of information did Simon mention should be provided at the bottom of the press release page? Now, please listen carefully, then I will ask 3 people to answer these questions. Okay, it's time for Q&A. Question number 1. What is the purpose of a press release? Can I have Mengxuan to answer this question?
I think the answer is A.
Correct, the answer is A. Because in the beginning of the conversation, after the male Simon asked the female Fiona whether she finished the press release or not, Fiona had told that she was still trying to construct it in order to attract more participants to attend the convention. So the answer will be A. Then question number 2. According to the dialogue, what are the 5 W's in the press release? Can I have Yanci to answer this question?
C.
Correct. The answer is C. When Simon was emphasizing some key points and messages for the press release, he had mentioned that there should be the basic information in the press release, which is the 5 W's: who, what, where, when, and why. And finally, we come to the last question. What kind of information did Simon mention should be provided at the bottom of the press release page? Okay, so can I have Qing Hui to answer this question?
The answer is B.
Correct, the answer is B. After Simon and Fiona talking about the second paragraph of the press release, Simon had mentioned it is necessary to have boilerplate information and contact information at the bottom of the page. After we have a small practice for listening part, now I'm going to show you some vocabulary in the audio. The first vocabulary is concise. So can I have Inro to read this vocabulary?
Concise.
Yes, and it means short and clear. The example sentence is, I'm still working on it, trying to construct a well-crafted and concise press release to compel both traditional and non-traditional participants to attend the convention. So, Inro, could you please repeat this sentence for me?
I'm still working on it, trying to construct a well-crafted and concise press release to compel both traditional and non-traditional participants to attend the convention.
Thank you very much. And the second word is compel. Compel. So can I have Yuqing to read this vocabulary for me?
Compel.
Yes, thank you very much. It means to force or to let someone to do something. The example sentence is, I'm still working on it, trying to construct a well-crafted and concise press release to compel both traditional and non-traditional participants to attend the convention. This is the sentence as same as the last one. So can I have Yuqing to read this sentence again?
I'm still working on it, trying to construct a well-crafted and concise press release to compel both traditional and non-traditional participants to attend the convention.
Yes, thank you very much. And the third word is boilerplate. Boilerplate. So can I have Yanting to read this vocabulary for me?
Sure. Boilerplate.
Yes, thank you. It means the text that can be copied and used in legal documents or in computer programs with only very small changes. A boilerplate is a must if you want your reader to know more about your company. So, can Yanting read this sentence for me?
Sure. Also, please include the boilerplate information about our company as well as the contact information at the bottom of the page.
Thank you very much. Then we come to the last vocabulary, conduit. Conduit. Can I have Yiru to read this vocabulary?
Conduit.
Yes, thank you very much. It means a way of connecting two places. It also has a meaning of the actual pipe or metal pipe. So let's take a look at the example sentence. Nowadays, social networking websites are the far more effective conduits to our target markets. So can I have Yiru to read this sentence?
Nowadays, social networking websites are the far more effective conduits to our target market.
Yes, thank you very much. And then this is the end of my part. Now I'm going to give the floor to Gaoming. He will continue to talk about activity 2.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gaoming. Thanks, Zi, for giving me the floor. In activity 2, we're going to learn how to write a press release. But the truth is, I'm pretty sure there are a few of us that had experience of writing a press release, right? So, in activity 2, going to learn how to write one. There are 4 major steps you need to take to complete a press release. And the first step is the headline. And the second step is 5 Ws. Third step is the body. And the fourth and final step is boilerplate. Now, let's get straight into the first step. Headline. Headline is usually 1 or 2 lines that captures the essence of what you want to say. And it's always put on the very top of the press release. And there is also subhead. Subhead, if you feel like your headline is not enough, you can use subhead as a line of support or another level of intrigue. And remember, subhead is optional. It is up to you whether to have subhead or not. Now let's move on to the second step. 5Ws. I'm sure we all know what 5W is, but how do we utilize them in our press release? 5Ws essentially works as a basic information, and we usually put them in the very first paragraph, which is the intro paragraph. And let me explain what 5W is. And the first one we have why. Why means why the press release exists. And what the press release is for. And who is the central person or the main publisher of the press release. And then we have when the dates in the event of the press release is going to hold. And then we have where the event of the press release is going to locate it. Okay, now we know how 5Ws work and how to use them in our press release. I want to move on to the third step, which is the body. Body is usually the second and third paragraph of our press release. We all know that press release is essentially a way to gain publicity, right? So you need to develop a story by introducing key factual pieces of information. And then you also need to provide the journalist with the detail to create story. That way more reader and more journalists can know better about the press release in your company in order to gain good publicity. And the fourth and final step is boilerplate. Just like Ziyi mentioned in the listening practice, boilerplates is essentially serve as about a section to let more people know more about your company. And it is usually 2 or 3 lines. It needs to be concise and punchy. That way, reader can quickly understand your company. And this is the end of the 4 steps. Now, I want to show you a demo of the press release. Here's a demo of the press release. First, I want to explain what for immediate release means. Means the information is ready to publish and can be used by journalists as soon as they receive it. Now you know what for immediate release is and what it's meant for. I want to move on to the 4 steps I just mentioned. The first step, headline. 2014 14th Annual GRI Convention is the headline. And you might be wondering, where do I put 5Ws in? Just like I mentioned, we put it in the very first paragraph, the intro paragraph, but in what forms? As you can see, the ACE company is the who of the press release. And the 14th Annual GRI Convention is what the press release is about, right? And then we have Stadium Downtown, which is where the events of the press release situated. And then we have April 26 is when the date of the press release, the event of the press release. And finally, we have published several new rules about marketing and labeling, is essentially why this press release exists. So this is where we put our 5Ws in the very first paragraph, the intro paragraph. Now let's move on to the third step I mentioned, body. Like I said, body needs to have detailed and factual information in order to gain good publicity. And you need to help the journalist to develop a story. That way, journalists can help you publish your press release and gain more attention and more publicity. Now, let's move on to the final step I talked about is the boilerplate. Boilerplates can let the reader understand your company quickly and to know what your company is all about, what your company does and your company's achievement, etc. And be sure to put your contact information at the very bottom of the press release so that reader and journalist can have a conduit to contact you. And this is the end of activity 2. And I believe now all of you have a better understanding about press release. So maybe one day you'll have a chance to write one yourself in the future. Now I will give the floor to Longten, and he will be sharing his high and low context culture with us. Let's welcome Longten.
Hello everyone, I'm Longten from Group3, and now I'm going to talk about high and low context culture. And here is the today my topic is what's the difference between high context advertisement commercial and low context advertisement or commercial. And before we start to see an example, let's review the high and low context culture. In low context culture, communication is a way to exchanging information, ideas, and opinions. So verbal informations are concise, straightforward, explicit, simple, and clear. Some countries belong to low context culture, such as the US, Australia, Germany, and the United States. And in high context culture, communication is indirect, implicit, subtle, layered, and nuanced. People in high context culture pay attention not just to the message itself, but also to the context in which the message is being delivered. Some countries belong to a high context culture, such as Japan, China, Italy, Spain, and Brazil. And here's an example from McDonald's. McDonald's is a global brand that gets the concept of high content and low content extremely right. Take a look at the McDonald's website for the US and Canada, and you can see its clean layout, product photos and description, and few colors, basically yellow and red. And the page is very logical, straight to the point, and use more words to convey information. And here you can see McDonald's. And here the comparison of, and here let's see the McDonald's website for Hong Kong and South Korea. We had a lot of visual and colors and last picture with less text. McDonald's relies heavy on images to evoke the same emotions and get the same desired action from their Hong Kong and South Korea customers. And here is a comparison of website. The United States website use more words to tell the customer the brand or products, and the Hong Kong website use a more dramatic angle to show the products. And here's a difference between high context and low context advertisement. And I think it's a good strategy for different countries. And here the same happen in the commercial, and see a low, and let's see low context commercial. As you can see, the man introduced his products, use more words and straightforward to introduce, and focus more on verbal information and linear processes. And let's see a high context commercial. And you can see the high context commercial use more movements and sounds to give context the audience to get the information. And the last video is McDonald's commercial for the United States and Taiwan. As you can see, the United States commercial use a lot of words and verbal message to introduce those products such as burger. And you can see a Taiwan commercial show more about sounds and context in the video, so they connect with the coffee with their products. And here's the difference between low context and high context advertisement and commercial. Low context marketing is quite used for English speakers, so what you will generally find effective and appealing in an advertisement or commercial is what this audience would like. And low context culture are those that require that you tell is so about the situation, the location, or the time, or the message. So when you build your advertisement, you might think about this feature, image, more words, clean, and straightforward, and focus more on verbal information and linear processes. And high context advertising and commercial. When you're planning on high context control, your advertising strategy need to change lest you bring your target audience. High context culture are all about situation and respond much better to ambiguity, especially if it has some fact to it. So when building your advertisement or commercial, think about those features: colorful, large pictures, more drama angles of products, use more movements and sounds to give context. And this is the end of high and low content culture, and I give the floor to Gaoming.
Thanks, Longten, for giving me the floor. My name's Gaomin. I'm back again. Now let's get into conclusion. Yuanxiang started off with the vocabulary of scenario 2, and then he and Ziyi had an amazing demonstration of the scenario 2. And Yuanxiang help us do some preposition exercise. And moving on, we have Ziyi. She helped us with the listening practice and provide answers to our questions. And then Ziyi is in charge of vocabulary of listening practice. And then after that is me, Gaoming. I'm in charge of activity 2. I show us from the beginning to the end, the major 4 steps of how to complete a press release. And finally, we have Longten. Longten show us what's advertisement in high context culture is different to low context culture. And this is the end of conclusion. Now I'm moving on to reference. And here is the reference of vocabulary and listening practice. And here is the reference of activity 2 and high and low context culture. Now for our inside story. This is our first meeting. And the date of the meeting is April 15th, 2022. And we did it on the Liang group chat. And what we did is the content preview and talk about general discussion and had a job assignment. And here is the second meeting. Due to the pandemic, we had an online meeting and it's on April 25th, 2022. And we did a final check for our PowerPoints and had several rehearsals. Now moving on, we have job assignment. For job assignment, Yuanxiang's work is vocabulary of scenario 2, conversation, preposition exercise. I believe all of you know that already. And we have Ziyi. Ziyi is in charge of conversation and listening practice. And it is me. I talk about activity 2, conclusion, reference, inside story, and this one, job assignment. And finally, it's Longten. Longten helped out with high and low context culture and our PowerPoint design. And this is the end of our presentation. We will have a break time. And please be back at 2:20. Thank you all for listening. Welcome back, everyone. Now, it is time for our comment. Group 1, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, let's begin.
Thanks for giving me the floor. Good afternoon, I'm Jimmy from Group 1, and I'll give Group 3 some comments. First is Yuanxiang and Ziyi. The presentation is fluent and the speed is okay for me. In the scenario part, you both have vocal variety on it, which is very good. Next is Gangming. It is clear for me to understand the activity too. You use your own words to explain. Finally is Longton. It is very interesting to use the advertisement to show the differences between high-low context culture. But I think you can practice more to reduce the number of natural poses. And this is my comments. I'll give the floor to Daddy.
Okay. Thanks, Jingmin, for giving me the floor. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Liao Jialin from Group 1. And first, I want to thank Group 3 for giving us an excellent presentation. And I will give some comments to their group members. First are Yuanxiang and Ziyi. I think both of you have clear pronunciation and your speaking rates are proper and great. So I can understand everything you said. And next is Gaoming. Gaoming, I like the way you include hand gestures and vocal variety in your speech, just like you're speaking directly in front of us. So I like it. And finally is Longton. Longton, I like the way you explain high and low context culture, but there's a little problem I want to point out. While you are pronouncing some words, you tend to didn't pronounce the ending sound of them. For example, context, you pronounce as contact, and the X sound is omitted, which means I cannot hear it. So maybe next time you should pay attention to that, so you can make your pronunciation clearer. And these are the comments I want to give to Group 3. Now I will give the floor to Yiru.
Thanks for giving me the floor. I'm Yiru. And thanks, Group 3, for giving us a good presentation. I will give some comments to Yuanxiang and Ziyi. Both of you still did a great job and have vocal variety when having conversations. But Yuanxiang, you talk a little bit rush at the end of your part. And as for Ziyi, you use your own word to expand the vocabulary in the audio script. That makes me understand easily. And next is for you to have hand gestures when presenting online. Also, you explain the press release clearly and in detail. And the last one is long term. It is a good try for you to in charge of high and low context culture. And the example you gave are interesting. And this is the end of my comments. I will give the floor to Group 2.
Thank you for giving the floor. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Yanting from Group 2. But first, I want to thank Group 3 for giving us a brilliant presentation. And I think they all did a great job. Since we are still on distance learning now, it's quite difficult for me to focus on the presenter's facial expression or body language. But So basically, I will concentrate on their oral expression, and obviously, only presentation presenters have the vocal variety to make the audience not to distract. And especially Max, he will emphasize the tone when talking about the main point, which is excellent. And one more thing for a long term, I think you just mispronounced one brand name. It should be McDonald, not 麦当劳. It sounds like Chinese, you know. But overall, you still did a great job. And this is the end of my comments. I will give the floor to Qinghui.
Thanks, Yanting, for giving me the floor. And I'm going to give a comment to Group 2. First is Yuan Xiang. I think that is no big problem during Yuan Xiang's presentation, and I like your fluent presentation. And as Zhiyi, I think you did a great job in the listening practice. You prepared the answer first and lead us to pre-read the answer and explain the answer clearly. As Gao Ming, it's not clearly my microphone.
A bit noisy.
How about now?
I'm sorry, I still hear some gee in the background. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No? It's better?
A bit better, a bit better. Thank you.
Okay. Then move on. And as Gao Ming, I think you did the great opening in the activity and give us the clearly introduction and show us the example. And as Longton, I think you got to open your camera and some vocabulary you are not sure how to pronounce it. Maybe next time you can make more practice before giving us the presentation. But I like the topic you introduced to us. High and low context culture different in the advertisement. And this is the end my comment.
Is it group 3? Group 4, sorry. Let's welcome group 4.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rui from Group 4. First, thanks Group 3 for giving us the presentation. Now I'm going to give some comment to each group members. First is Yuan Xiang and Ziyi. I think you two spoke fluently, and I think there's no any problem of your speech. Next is Gao Ming. You gave us a very clear example of press release because you not only explained it fluently, but you also put enough highlights which were very clear. And last one is Longton. The topic of high and low context culture is interesting, and you gave us enough example videos. But you should pay attention to some pronunciation because you are used to missing most words suffixes, such as United States. And this is all my comments. I'm going to give the floor to Fu Shen.
Thank you for giving me the floor. I'm Pu Xuan from Group 4. And I think Group 3 did a great job today. and I want to give some comments to you. First is Yuanxiang. You have a good opening, so I could know who in charge of which part easily. And next is Ziyi. You preview questions to help us could answer easily, and you explain the reason why to choose this answer. I think it's very good. Next is Gaoming. I like the way you talk about activity, but the backgrounds of activity parts are not suitable because sometimes I cannot see it clearly. And finally is long term. I like the way you talk about high and low context culture. You use pictures and videos to show the difference between two countries. Like America use a lot of words to convey, but Canada just show few words. I think this is very clear. And this is the end of my comments. I will give the floor to Yutong. Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Liu Yutong from Group 4. And I think Group 3, they all did a great job. And now I'm giving some comments to them. As for Yuanxiang and Ziyi, I think you two explain your part very clear. And both of you preview the questions, I think, which is very good. And as for Gaoming, I like the way he explained activity too. He taught us how to draft a press release. I think it's very great. And finally, as for Longten, as others said, you have some mispronunciation. And there's another one I want to point out, like comparison. You pronounce like comparison. You miss the r. Yes, and you can pay more attention to your pronunciation next time. And this is the end of my comment. I will give the floor to Yingru.
Thanks for giving me the floor. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Yingru from Group 4. And first, I'd like to give some comments and suggestions to Yuanxiang and Ziyi first. First is Yuanxiang. I think you have a great opening, and both of you have vocal variety when having the conversation. And both of your speech is smooth and clear. And next one is Gaoming. Your pronunciation, your speech rate, and vocal variety, and the confidence you have are all good as always. And it's good that you mark the 5W to let us have better understanding. Also, you explain the 5 steps in order clearly, and you use your own words to explain, which is easier for us to comprehend. And last one is Longten. I think sometimes when you pronounce words you are not familiar, you might be hesitated, so this might make you sound more nervous and uncertain. So I think next time you can practice your pronunciation more. And can you turn the page to 43? 43. Hello? Can you turn the page to 43? I think it's activity high and low context. Yes. The words clean and colorful. I think the first letter should not be capitalized, right? Yes. So this is all my comments and suggestions. So next I'll give the floor to Group 5.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm Pei from Group 5. Thank you for giving me the floor. And next, I would like to give some comment to Group 7 for today's presentation. First, I would like to talk about Yuanxiang. I think Yuanxiang's speech is understandable and fluent, but since Yuanxiang's part need to interact with the audience, I think adding more facial expression would be better. And next is about Ziyi. I think there is no big problem. The advantage of her is that she kept smiling and had facial expression. Also, I noticed Ziyi will lean forward when we repeating the sentence, which encouraged us to interact with her. And next is about Gaoming. The advantage of Gaoming is that his speech is clear and organized with proper gesture. And I really learned a lot about writing a press release efficiently. But the small problem is that the word of 5W on page 32 are a little bit too small if we are in physical classroom. And last one is long term. As for long term, I can really feel long term trying very hard to give his speech, but there are still some mispronunciation. For example, Canada, comparison, and McDonald, as Ada has mentioned. And that's all my comments for today. And next, I would like to give the floor to Yuqing. Thank you.
Thanks, Ping, for giving me the floor. I'm Yuqing from Group 5. Thank Group 3 for giving us a good presentation, and now I have some comments for each of you. And first is Yuanxiang. You have vocabulary in your presentation, but I think you didn't have enough eye contact with the audience. Maybe you can notice this next time. And next one is Ziyi. I think you have enough vocabulary and strong eye contact with the audience, which make me feel great when listening to your presentation. And next one is Gaomi. In activity 2, you gave us details about drafting invitation letters. And in the example, you use red to circle the point. It made me easy to understand and clearly. And next one is long term. In high and low context culture, it's good that you use video to support your presentation, but you still have some unnatural pauses when you are presenting. Maybe you can practice more before your presentation to make it more fluently. And this is the end of my comments. Now I'm giving the floor to Yuchen.
Thanks for giving me the floor. Hello, everyone. I'm Yuchen from Group 5. Thanks, Group 3, give us such an excellent presentation. And then I want to give some comments to you. First is Yuanxiang. In vocabulary part, for me, I learned a lot from the vocabularies that you have introduced. And in conversation part, I like the way you and Ziyi perform. You both have vocal variety and speak with passion. As for Ziyi, in listening practice, you explain clearly and every questions and answers, and let me easily to catch up with 3 questions and audio. As for Gaoming, I like your part the most. In activity 2, you introduce 4 steps, and what impressed me the most is that you give us a demo and insert 4 steps you introduce one by one, and let me literally know what you wanna talk about. And all in all, you all did a great job. It's amazing presentation for me. And this is the end of my comments. I will give the floor to Jiayong.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jiayong from Group 5. Thank you for giving me the floor. And first of all, I need to say this is a good presentation for me because I learned a lot on this presentation. And now I have some comments about all of your performance. First of all, is about Yuanxiang. I think your parts is clear, your PowerPoint is clear, and I can read it easily. But about sometimes when you try to ask someone to answer the question, please be careful with the pronunciation of the name because it is show the respect of the audience. And next is about Ziyi. I think your speech is smooth and you did a great job more than before. And the one thing you can be improved is you can add more vocal variety. And next is Gao Min. I think you always did a good job, and your speech is smooth, and your speech is easy to understand. All in all, is great. Finally, is long term. I think long term you are not familiar with your context, and so that you have some unnatural poses, and I think you can improve it next time. And this is the end of my comment, and now I'll give the floor to Group 6.
Thank you for giving me the floor. I'm Liang from Group 6, and now I'm going to give some comments to Group 3. First is Yuan Xiang. I like the vocal variety you use in conversation, but I think you speak a little bit too fast at the beginning. So maybe you can try to slow down next time. And next is Ziyi. In listening practice, you have previewed the questions in this part before playing the audio. And also the explanation of this part is very clear. And I like the speed of your presentation is moderate. Next is Gao Ming. In your activity 2 part, you show us the examples and explain it step by step. And it makes us easy to understand what you want to convey. And I also like the hand gesture you use in your presentation. And finally is long term. And I suggest that you can practice more before flipping a presentation because in today's presentation, it's not smooth and have some unwanted poses. And just like Inlo talked about on page 43, the vocabulary should not be capitalized. And that's the comments for Group 3. And now I'm going to give the floor to Xingwei.
Good afternoon. I'm Xinwei from Group 6, and I think you all really did a great job. I only have one question to ask for long term. I'm not sure which page it is, but I think it's the high and low context commercial. Can you go to that page? Yes, this page. And both of high and low context commercial and high context commercial you show us is is from, sorry. Oh, sorry. I didn't see very clearly. And um all right, I'm gonna pass it. After all, I think long term you really did a great job, better than the last time, and you improved a lot. And that's all my comments for you. And I will going to give the floor to Yin Jiachen. Sorry.
Thanks for giving me the floor. Ye Jiacheng. Thank Group 3 for today's amazing presentation. Now I would like to make my comments. First, for Yuan Xiang, for Yuan Xiang and Ziyi, I think both of you are well prepared, and you give the presentation fluently. Next, for Gaoming, I have to say you're such a good performer. Your speech is always appealing. Whenever you speak, I'll focus on you unconsciously. Well done. As for Longton, I can tell that you're doing your best. However, your pronunciation is still a bit not clear enough for me to understand what exactly you just said. But I believe you can do it better next time. That's all my comments. Now I will give the floor to Group 7.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm Jenny from Group 7. Thanks, Group 3, for giving us such amazing presentation. Here I have some suggestions for them. First is Yuan Xiang. I think Yuan Xiang has a great stage performance, and I don't think it is a big problem with his presentation. And when he's giving us presentation, I can clearly see his face, and I think it is important for the online courses. Next is Ziyi. I think Ziyi has did her great job, and she made a vivid presentation. And also, I like the way when she's introduced the vocabulary, because she will read the vocabulary twice, so make sure all of us can hear it. Next one is Gao Ming. Gao Ming is always do present. Gao Ming always has a great presentation for us, but I think there are some page the size of the word is too small, and I can't see it clearly. And the last one is Longton. Just like others mentioned, there are some mispronunciation of the words like context and concise. And I think you should pay more attention to your pronunciation. But I like the way when you give us the example of the different countries of the advertisement. And here, this is the end of my comments, and I will give the floor to Hong Ping.
Good afternoon. I'm Hong Ping from Group 7. Now I will give the comment to Group 3. First is Yuan Xiang. I think it's good that you always look at the camera when presenting, and you introduce the vocabularies are clear enough to understand. As for Ziyi, in the presentation, I love you use some facial expression and gestures to support your content. And the last one is Gao Ming. I think you explained clearly about how to write press release in activity 2, and I learned a lot about it. And this is the end of my comment. I will give the floor to Mengshen.
Thanks for giving me the floor. I'm Mengshen from Group 7, and I want to give some comment to Group 3. And first is Yuan Xiang. You demonstrate well in scenario 2 with Ziyi, and there is no big problem with. And Ziyi, your stage performance is great. And in listening practice part, you explain well in each of answer and the vocabulary. And as for Gao Ming, you speak smoothly and fluently. And I like your vocal variety. And also in activity 2, your content is clear enough. And the last one is long term. You improve a lot than last semester, but I think your eye content is not enough. And maybe Next time you can do better, and you still did a great job. And this is the end of my comments, and then I will give the floor back to Group 3.
Thanks for giving us back the floor, and thanks all of your comments. Now please give us like 1 minute to discuss our best commentator. Welcome back. The best commentator is Group 4. Let's give a round of applause for Group 4. The reason we choose Group 4 as the best commentator is that because about Yuanxiang, it needs to have more eye contact. That's something other group didn't mention. And about Longten's pronunciation and need to be more familiar with his own contents. And so this is basically why we choose how we choose the best commentator. And I think that all of your comments are great. It is a very hard choice. And now I will show our present. Okay. And this is like how do I say crackers, like onion circle. Onions. And this is middle. Yes. And we have more onion circle, and be sure to come and get the present tomorrow. Yes. And good for, is there anything you want to say?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, now let's go to feedback. And for me, I appreciate onion ring. Okay, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say onion circle, I should say onion ring, and that's my fault. And I love everybody's comments. I think some of you suggested that my background should be no conflict with the word, and I believe that Paying suggested that I make my font bigger. That way, if we are in the physical environment and all of the people can see it clearly. And this is my feedback. Now, let's welcome Yuanxiang for his feedback.
Thank you, Gao Ming, for giving me the floor. And thank you everyone for your comments. And for Paying, I think you said the right thing, because I always speak in the face like very serious. Maybe I need to improve more on my facial expressions. And for Jiayong, you also mentioned that I have to like pronounce the name of my classmate properly. And sorry for that, because actually I'm not familiar with those Chinese names, because in Malaysia we never mention my friend's name in Chinese. So actually it's a bit tough for me to like to speak the Chinese name. So maybe I would take notice of this and improve next time. And thank you everyone for your comments. And now I give the floor to Long Ten.
Hello everyone, I'm Long Ten. And first, thank everyone to give me your comment. And just like everyone say, I still had a pronunciation problem, and such as context and Madonna and the United States and comparison. And I need a more eye contact with camera. Yes. And in the end, I some of you love my topic, and this is the end of my feedback. And I give the floor to Ziyi.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ziyi. Thanks everyone's comments and suggestions. And thanks everyone for being nice and giving us many praises and constructive suggestions. I think I will keep improving my vocal variety, especially when I had my own explanation to the content. And this is the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. I will change 2014 to 2022.
Updated.
Excuse me, Dr. Liang, we cannot hear you.
You cannot hear me? Hello?
Now it's okay.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Any other questions for today's lesson? Yuanxiang, if you have trouble pronouncing their Chinese name, you may call them Miss Li or Miss Wu or Mr. Liang, Mr. Zhang, without referring to their first name, if that's a problem for you. Yuanxiang,
Yes. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
okay? You can call them on their last name basis,
Sure. Thanks.
right? Any other questions? If no other questions, then type no questions on the chat board. And thank you very much for coming for today's lesson. Hope to see you in person physically next week. Goodbye.
Thank you, Dr. Liang.
Thank you. No questions. Very good, Yanting.